Hi, welcome back to another episode of Chasing Tone. This makes like, what, 30-something? 7? 8?
30-something.
30-something.
I
see what I did there.
See?
I gave myself credit for it. See
It's
what
kind of a British sounding statement, right?
British.
Sort of an Alnico sound to that.
Alnico.
But I'm Travis.
I'm Max.
And I'm Brian.
And we were discussing Max's telephone voice on the intro. I'm Travis.
Sure. I'm Max. Hi, thanks for calling in. Seems like there's something wrong with your pedal. Let's take a look. You see 4 circles with squares or crosses on the back. Those are screws. Little joke in the pedal industry. Turn those counterclockwise. Remove the back plate. Here you're going to find a battery. Change it. Put the back plate back on. Screw the circle and crosses clockwise. Boom. Rock and roll, man. Thank you so much for calling in. Have a good day.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
That's my speech. There you go.
That is pretty good. But
Now say, all right, gentlemen, let's turn your attention to stage 2 for Saturn.
Candy, thank you. Candy's a nursing student putting herself through medical school. Give a big round of applause for the first time. Welcome to Desire. Oh, man, we can edit that out.
That's the most Max has talked in 30 episodes. We're counting word count.
oh my gosh, my stomach. You gotta stop.
Speaking of stomachs, dude, there's this place in Martinsville, Indiana called the Mixing Bowl.
Awesome.
B's and G's.
B's and G's.
Right.
Tenderloins.
Yeah, and if you're from Indiana, you have to know what if you're not from Indiana, when you come to Indiana, you have to get a breaded tenderloin. Oh man, I think it's like a Indiana thing, but
And they're the size of a dinner plate,
yes,
and the bread's still the same size.
yes, the bun is the same size. Anyways,
Looks like Saturn.
thank you, Brian. Brian treated us to some Mixing Bowl.
Thanks,
But let's get on to guitar tone stuff because you guys like educated.
With
Today
you.
class.
With you.
Yeah. Okay. So this guy writes. There's no name on this one.
I didn't catch his name.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Steve in Iowa writes, I'm trying to go next level of sound quality, and now I'm sure I was going the wrong way. Buying nice pedals, but keeping a solid state digital amp, expecting effects pedals would sound good on that. Who first? All right, I'll start. Nose goes. Okay, I'll go.
Dang it.
There's two schools of thought. I think a lot of that is you get what you pay for on everything, and that includes solid state amps. Mm-hmm. Quilter, Axe Effects.
Quilter's awesome.
Who else? There's Kemper.
Yep.
You know, those. I'm sure there's more, and I'm not trying to leave any out, but man, those sound great. They're solid state amps. Mm-hmm. But, and I know I'm going to catch slack for dropping names, but if I'm dropping names of amps that are great, I guess I can drop, names of amps that aren't so great, like the Line 6 Spider.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
great.
not a fan of it.
It's great for what it does for that particular customer, but if you're buying, $200 guitar pedals,
If your one pedal costs more than your amp, I probably would rethink my point of view.
Yeah, your whole your tone strategy or whatever. But I mean, that's kind of my view on it. That's the short version. So like Brett Kingman, just look him up on YouTube. He does which pedal of ours was it? Is one of our pedals, but he did a demo, the Clarksdale, I think.
I think it was a Clarksdale.
He did the Clarksdale demo into an Axe Effects rig. Mm-hmm. And he talked about it briefly, but just briefly enough to definitely pique your interest. But yeah, he ran that into a solid state amp and phenomenal results. So I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I don't think you're going the other way or a step backwards. But maybe just do a little bit more research on that solid state amp.
Right.
Sorry to monopolize there, but
No, that's a pretty good way to put it. I mean, I don't think I would want to buy like a $3,000 amp and $30 pedals.
No.
I think you're going to hear that. And in the same way, I probably wouldn't, if I had $2,000, I probably wouldn't say, okay, well, I'm going to buy, 9-10 pedals and $200 amp.
right.
I probably would start with a good amp, a really good amp.
I'd start with $1,000 amp.
Yeah. Probably half of that for a good amp. And then from there, build pedal by pedal. Because let's be realistic. You really don't need 15 overdrives if you're playing it.
Right.
Now, for recording and just for having fun and writing stuff and and just, to have fun with, because basically they are toys, right?
Yeah, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of like the grown-up guitar player's version of a toy. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So, I mean, all that stuff kind of leads itself to giving you some satisfaction on some level.
Yeah, of course. It appeals to an emotional level.
Right. So it's like whenever you got that new Tonka truck when you were a little kid.
Yeah, when they used to be made of metal.
Right.
Die cast. Now they're plastic. But whatever. So I want to, you mentioned $1,000 amp, or I did, I guess, whatever. But
you, me, it's all same.
You, me, really. But I'm totally jonesing for $1,000 amp. Have you seen the new the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe ML?
ML? No.
Michael Landau.
I have.
Really?
They did one at NAMM this year. I didn't get a chance to see
that was the unveiling. But basically, it's not like a signature model, but it's, how do they say it? Inspired by Michael Landau. And basically, if I'm remembering correctly, and they got rid of the drive channel. And they put another...
Which is pointless anyways.
Let's face it, it really is. But they put another clean channel in there that's voiced a little bit different and then boostable. So you can go from one clean channel to another clean channel that's... Yeah, and of course, I mean, I'll say this. Even when on the demos when Michael wasn't playing it, it sounded great. Because I'm sorry, Michael Landau could plug into a lunchbox.
Right.
And it would sound
peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah, right.
It still sound good.
Yeah, as long as it's true bypass.
I want to try that.
You want to try what? The peanut butter and jelly sandwich? But no, if you guys aren't familiar with that, go check that amp out, man, because it sounds really good. And if anybody from Fender is listening, feel free to send me one. I'll give you my honest review and keep it forever. But no, they sound great. But
I mean, actually speaking of those amps, one of my favorite tricks with the dirt channel is just putting an EQ.
Turning it off?
is not using it. No. I mean, seriously, like if, like let's say that you don't have a bunch of money for pedals and you have that amp, or you just need something to get you through, right? So I like to take an EQ pedal, put it in the effects loop, and turn it on whenever I'm using the dirty channel. Makes a gigantic difference.
Okay. Now, which one do I have? It's like cream colored. It's the Boss GE7.
Probably.
Is that what it's called? GE7? But yeah, I use that all the time on acoustic amps.
Do you?
Speaking of, I know we never talk about acoustic guitars here.
We don't, do we?
No, we never do. But I got the coolest amp ever. You've seen it. That Phil Jones bass. Yeah. Have you ever seen the Phil Jones bass? Is the company, but it's got like I think 4 or 5 inch drivers in it.
Really?
2 of them. It's 100 watts, and it's specifically engineered for acoustic guitar. I think it's just called like the AD100 or AD50 or something like that. I'm probably wrong.
Does it have effects and everything in it?
No, no effects at all. It's just a good sounding amp. But I'll run the GE7 with it, and because each room's different, and I'll use it as kind of like a stage monitor and plug my acoustic guitar through the house. And man, I've never had a problem getting any tone that's less than fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, but that's really the only thing I use my EQ for. So I'm gonna have to try the effects loop thing.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
I bet you could do that on what about like those classic 30s? Do they have effects loops? I can't remember.
Don't think so.
Okay. I was about to say another amp like that would probably work, but not if it doesn't.
I mean, I'm sure there's some like boutique version that does.
Right.
But,
yeah. Why isn't there a boutique version of the?
I mean, I know
30?
like Shaw's does some EF86 Voxy type of things.
Was that EF86 the classic 30?
No. The you're talking about AC30, right?
No. The PV Classic 30.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said the AC30.
No, I consider the Hot Rod Deluxe and the PV Classic 30 kind of like the same amp.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're not, but they're kind of like the same budget style.
Right. Yeah.
Amps.
The 30. Oh, golly.
It's been so long since I've played one.
I think like the early ones did not have an effects loop. Maybe the later ones do.
Well, if they do, that could be something to try too.
I know it was that way on the 50s as well. The early ones didn't have an effects loop, but the older ones did. But yeah, another great trick. In fact, I'll just put this out there. Any amp you have
with an effects loop,
put an EQ pedal in there.
Just try it
and start tweaking. and see what you think.
And
You'll get a ton of different tones.
And if it doesn't work, change the order of the cables. It's so funny. Still to this day, I've been playing guitar for however long. I still have no idea which the correct way is. I literally plug it in because it's always a reverb pedal that goes on top of my amp because it doesn't have reverb. But I plug it in and then I flip the switch on and I try to play. And if it doesn't work, click, put them back in the other way. Works perfect. I still have no idea which they should call it in and in, out and out. They shouldn't call it send to the in and then the out to the return. It's just too damn confusing. You know?
It would require thinking.
I know.
I think of it as this: you're sending the signal somewhere.
But where are you sending it? Out or
You're
in?
sending it out,
Away,
from the amp into something else, and then you're returning.
Why would you
it
send?
back
Yeah,
to you.
that's stupid. You're exactly right. It makes no sense.
You're routing the signal.
Yeah, exactly. It makes zero sense.
Uh,
Just name them 1 and 2. That way you know, or red and black.
Well, they could just call it "go to pedal from this jack," and then
Boom.
return from pedal at this jack. That's hard to fit on a faceplate, though.
Or why don't they put send quotes out
Could
right underneath it? Boom, $1 million idea. I'd be 1,000
you
there.
should
yet.
approach Fender with that idea. See if you can get the TF version of the.
Here's the deal.
Deluxe.
Here's the deal. You send me one of those amps, I'll give you all my ideas, Fender.
both of them.
Both of them. Yeah, I got to come up with a couple ideas. So we didn't ask Max about that, but that's fine because he's not going to add anything to it anyway. No, I mean, you don't play solid state amps, do you?
Not really, but I was going to say, on top of that, just use your ears. I mean, if it sounds good, then rock it, man. Who cares what it is?
Yeah,
Did you say Brocket?
So rock it.
Oh, there's a Brocket.
Yeah,
What,
but
how
just
do you
give-
turn this political?
Yeah, just give up on it.
Hashtag
altogether.
Brocket.
That would be just giving up on your idea and walking away and starting something else.
Oh, no. That's the wrong podcast.
I know.
Anyway, I was going to say something.
Not touching that one.
Something he said. Okay, so fan of the podcast, probably just because he's been, one of my best friends for years. But Eric, or what was his name? Ted Western Houston.
Yeah.
I forget whatever it was. Right. But he has a friend, and I hope I don't offend his friend because I don't know him. But but he has 2 PRS guitars and a PRS amp. So let's say $6,000, probably way more than that. $2,000 guitars, two $2,000 guitars and a $2,000 amp. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's got that gear and he hates his tone. And it's like, at what point do you listen with your ears or your eyes? Because it's like, I understand if I have money invested into something, then I'm going to think that it's great. Mm-hmm.
I can understand that.
Yeah. If I have a $2,000 guitar, even if it sounds terrible, I'm not going to convince myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It boggles my mind how somebody can have really, really expensive gear and not like their tone.
Well, I mean, there's really expensive amps that, like, for example, an AC30 we brought up. I mean,
But I wouldn't buy one.
right, that just doesn't work for you.
Right.
So, I mean, but for me, like, for example, I like that sort of tone for certain things. So what may work for, John Smith over here
Right.
may not work for Eric's friend.
Right. Yeah, I guess. But my thing is, I guess I would sell the amp and get something else.
I probably would sell it.
Yeah,
I'd
but-
probably just try something else. But I don't like Paul stuff. But
You do or don't?
I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not.
I will say one thing.
Not everybody likes our stuff.
I will say one thing about Paul. We were at Sweetwater, and he was like, "Yeah, man." And we went out to dinner with Paul and Brent, and I'm name dropping, but it's cool.
You had dinner with Paul Reed Smith. Not a big deal.
I had dinner with Paul Reed Smith and Brent Mason and Brian Wampler, And instead of keeping quiet like a fly on the wall, no, I talked and made a fool of myself, but it's fine. It's a whole nother story. But anyway, he was like, "Yeah, man, I really want to come play your pedals. I'll make sure I get enough time." Well, Paul comes down. He pulls out the most beautiful, stunning guitar I've ever seen in my life. I mean, do you remember it?
I don't.
Oh, but he brought this guitar out. I couldn't even tell you what color it was. It was like, it looked like a turquoise and denim. I mean, like the most unbelievable flame top you've ever seen. And I think Brent played it, and it sounded unbelievable. And then Paul played it, and it sounded great, but it was way darker. Like, it was a completely different guitar.
Yeah, they're two playing styles so dramatically different that it made the sound completely different.
But it was so weird because, and then Paul got some tones out of our pedals that I'd never heard before. Mm-hmm. And like, for instance, like the Euphoria, don't get me wrong, it's a great pedal, but I have some things on my board that do similar enough stuff to where I don't feel like I need one. Mm-hmm. And he put it in the crunch setting and cranked the gain. I was like, oh my God, I got to have one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a totally
different
But I think some of that's just the way he plays too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the most beautiful guitar I'd ever seen, and I'd hate to know. I mean, obviously it's, people say it's private stock. He has this thing called private stock. No, that was private stock. That's Paul's guitar.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, hey, Paul, let me get that one time. Take that home with me. Come on.
I'd trade him straight up for a couple pedals. I don't care.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they wouldn't be Wamplers because I don't have that authority. But
the Custom 22 was my locker guitar in high school. Like, that was one I had the cutout on. Some other girlfriends had the PRS Custom 22.
I didn't have girlfriends. I had like chicks in there, but like
real little ones.
I've been wanting to get I've been debating on buying a Paul Reed Smith. But
why wouldn't you?
Just buy a couple for the office.
I'm cheap, man. No, I mean, honestly, I've got a lot of guitars, and I feel bad because I don't really play out as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. So, but I keep trying to talk myself into it. Like, I need this though for designing pedals.
I will say one thing, and this is, I don't care if it's a Paul Reed Smith, I don't care what it is. You do need a high-quality humbucker guitar because a lot of people are saying, Travis always plays a Strat, and that's great. Brian, you always play a Telecaster, that's great. But a lot of people want to know, like, what things sound like with humbuckers.
Yeah, I agree, man. So you've talked me into buying a Paul Reed Smith.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, is that...
Slow clap. Start the slow clap.
But, and I'm not trying to say, like, it's going to sound terrible. I'm like, yeah, he'll just give you a free one because he won't. No, and why would he? I mean, but what I'm saying is, dude,
I wouldn't ask him for one.
Well, no, of course not. But what I'm saying is, I'm just prefacing, like, I don't want our listeners to go, oh, well, it must be nice. But, you have Paul's number. Just call him and say, hey, I'm really interested in a guitar. What do I want? Because then if you're going to buy a guitar, he'll tell you exactly what you want.
Yeah, he probably would.
You know what I mean?
He would know exactly. If I said, here's what I'm using it for, which guitar do I want?
Yeah, so I'm not like saying call him and see if he'll hook you up. I'm just saying if you're going to buy one, call him and be like, this is what I want. What exactly do I want? What pickups do I want? You know what I mean?
Straight from the horse's mouth, man.
That's what I did with Grosh, and if that's what I did with you with the Velvet Fuzz. I was like, what do I want? You're like, let's build it.
And Whitfield did that with the Telecaster.
Exactly.
And I got my
dream
love
guitar
of my life.
Exactly. You mean your wife?
Guitar
okay,
wife.
There you go. Does Amanda watch these?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
I meant the love of my life in the guitar realm.
But anyway, so we covered, the solid state thing, and really that's it, man. We went off on that, didn't we?
Yeah, solid state thing and guitar pickups.
Yeah, kind of, right?
And how I must get up on PRS site right now and start looking
just
guitars.
Call them, just text them.
I want to do some research first.
Yeah.
So
okay, that way you sound educated.
Because if not, I was just like, I want the Rent Mason model. I mean...
But remember that time I didn't silence my cell phone? And oh my gosh, speak of the devil, it's my buddy, it's Ted Smith and Winston House.
There's a Paul Reed Smith. I'm like, everybody has his number but me.
I do. I don't have his number. Brian, let me get that number one time. But anyway,
come on.
Remember that time we were hashtag come on COMON. But I'm starting it. But so. Like, we're going to do some shorter podcasts and we'll hit another one later this week. So, if you guys,
questions.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, need recipes.
The recipes on the blog, wamplerpills.com/blog.
Jack White's guacamole recipe.
Who?
Jack White.
Jack White's guacamole.
I'll talk about that on the next podcast.
Okay, fair enough. But leave us a review on iTunes. Check us out on the face page.
Instagram.
And Instagram.
YouTube.
Brag about us to all your friends.
Snapchat.
Here we go.
Just get us on Snapchat. Jason Tone Podcast.
Are we doing that for real?
No.
Okay. Hey, tell your friends about us. Tell your enemies about us. They'll become your friends. I'm Travis. Have a good one, guys. Ouch!